Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the Ask Imam show. It's Brother Saber here, and we have Imam Muaaz. Today, Alhamdulillah, we have an exciting topic for you all, and it is zakat. Obviously, it is the month of Ramadan. So, inshallah, Brother Muaaz, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So obviously zakat, a lot of this is the time when obviously a number of people tend to give zakat. I also know that obviously it is not a must that you must give zakat in the month of Ramadan. However, people prefer to give zakat in the month of Ramadan for extra benefits, extra rewards. But let us start with the first question. What is zakat?
Yeah, Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So the reason we're talking about zakat firstly in the month of Ramadan is because people like to give their zakat, as you mentioned, in this month. Now, zakat is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, right? It is a pillar of Islam. So it's not something we should take lightly. It's something we should take very, very seriously.
Absolutely.
And so in the Sharia, zakat refers to the annual duty of a Muslim who possesses what we call the nisab, which is the zakat threshold. Whoever possesses that zakat threshold, on their zakat date, they have to pay 2.5% of certain types of wealth, right? So that is what zakat refers to. It's an annual duty upon Muslims, 2.5% of their wealth, of certain classes of wealth, should I say more specifically, and you pay it year upon year on your zakat date.
Okay. And you mentioned the nisab date, right?
Yep.
I'm sure we'll go into that in a bit more details.
Inshallah. Yep.
So obviously, there is the obligation of making zakat, and as Muslims, we submit to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
Yes.
and to His commands. What happens if you don't pay your zakat?
Yeah, subhanallah. I mean, this is a very, very scary question, to be fair, because a lot of wealthy people, people with large amounts of money which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them. Remember, as Muslims, we don't believe that our wealth is something we have earned. No, we believe that our wealth is something Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has essentially decreed for us. And that is why you see people struggling and striving and making effort in their businesses. And at the end of the year, they've earned very little.
Sure.
And you see other people who make very little effort and yet they've got so much to show for it, right? Why? Because wealth is something that Allah gives you. More or less, Allah has decreed it. And whether you have more or less, it's a test from Allah to you. That when you have more, what do you do with it? Do you hoard it? Do you gather it for yourself? Or do you say, actually, this is something Allah has given me, and let me give it to those who are deserving of it? And when you are poor, do you resort to haram means to try to acquire wealth? Or do you try to stay in the guidelines, in the boundaries that Allah has shown us, right? So,
Okay.
having understood that, then we have to understand that the ahadith are actually very, very scary when it comes to zakat. So, for example, there is a hadith which is found in the Sahih of Imam al-Bukhari,
Okay.
meaning it's an authentic hadith, right? Wherein Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that whoever is made wealthy by Allah and does not pay zakat on their wealth, then on the day of resurrection, their wealth will be made like a bald-headed poisonous male snake with 2 black spots over the eyes. The snake will encircle this person's neck and bite their cheeks and say, I am your wealth, I am your treasure. So can you see, it's a very, very scary hadith here,
Yeah.
that this wealth which we're gathering today and we're not paying zakat on it, we're not paying its due, will actually be a punishment for us, a burden for us
Sure.
on the day of judgment.
Yeah.
And so that's why we have to make sure we are paying our zakat,
Yeah.
we're calculating it accurately,
Yeah.
and we're also giving it to the right people.
Sure.
The whole journey is important. From you calculating your zakat on the right day, making the right actual calculations, and then making sure it reaches the right hands and the right recipients. All of those things are important when it comes to zakat.
Okay. So, on whom is zakat obligatory?
Okay, good. So in terms of obligatory, zakat is necessary firstly on somebody who is sane, right? I.e., as we know in the Sharia, somebody who is mentally insane, unstable, then they are not obliged by the Sharia to follow any of the rulings because they don't have the mental capacity to do so. So number one, a person who is sane. Secondly, an adult, meaning zakat is not necessary on children's wealth, right? So if you know how sometimes children get gifts on Eid, and that is given to the child.
Okay.
So that money, the child does not have to pay zakat on that money,
Okay.
right? So firstly, somebody who is sane. Secondly, they are an adult. Thirdly, of course, they are Muslim, because non-Muslims, even in a Muslim land, they wouldn't pay zakat. They would pay what we call jizya, right? Which is a tax for the non-Muslims for the protection that they are given by the state.
Okay.
So sane, adult, Muslim, and then fourthly, somebody who meets the zakat threshold,
Okay.
which is the nisab amount.
Okay.
So somebody who meets this nisab, as we'll discuss inshallah, then these are the four conditions, and they have to pay zakat.
So you said someone obviously who is sane. Let's say you have a person who is insane. However, his brother, he is his power of attorney, for instance,
Yes.
and they're both Muslims.
Yes.
What then happens in that case? And the brother who might not have the mental capacity is probably has the wealth
Yep.
that is zakat applicable.
Yep.
But because of his mental ability,
Yes.
he's not able, and he's power of attorney. What happens then in that case?
Yeah, good question. So
Yeah.
it's important for me to clarify here that in the Hanafi madhab, in the Hanafi school of law, zakat is not due on the wealth as much as it is due on the person.
Okay.
In the Shafi'i school, if I remember correctly, it's due on the wealth and not the person. So it's the other way around. So where does this practically become apparent? Well, for us, we say, once again, a child may have wealth, but because that child is not legally obliged by Sharia, therefore, they do not have to pay zakat on their wealth. There is no zakat on that money. There is
Okay.
none. It's not like there is, but they're not paying it. No, there is none. So the same applies, according to us, for a mentally insane person. Although they have money, their money, there is no zakat on it.
Okay.
Because they are not legally obliged by Sharia to pay zakat on their money.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
Whereas on the Shafi'i school, it's the opposite, where the obligation is on the money itself.
Okay.
So if there's a child who has money, well, the point is he has money. So therefore now zakat needs to be paid.
Sure.
So I would assume that in the Shafi'i school, although it'd be best to consult a Shafi'i scholar here, I'm not a
Yeah.
Shafi'i scholar, it would be the same thing, logically speaking, where for a mentally insane person, if they have wealth, then that wealth is what the zakat is being paid on. We are saying, no, it's the person. That's the focus for us.
Okay. And earlier on, you mentioned nisab,
Yes.
and you always hear this word.
Yeah.
So, what is nisab?
Yeah, so it's a very, very important question, right?
Yeah.
What exactly is nisab? So in simple words, nisab is that threshold, which when a person reaches that threshold, it makes them liable to pay zakat. So nisab is the threshold. When you reach it, you must now pay zakat. You are liable for zakat.
Okay.
Okay? And so the way nisab works, I'm just going to explain it in a bit of detail because it is very, very important. Which is that you will, once you cross puberty, once you have passed puberty, you are now an adult. At one stage in your life, whether that be early on or later, could be when you're 13, 14, could be when you first get a job, could be when you get some Eid gifts or whatever else.
Yeah.
You will cross a certain threshold amount. What is that threshold amount? That threshold amount is mentioned in a hadith to be equivalent to 87.48 grams of gold, right? The hadith mentions 20 mithqal, which in modern terms is about 87.48 grams of gold. Or there is a silver nisab, which is 200 dirhams, or modern equivalent, 612.36 grams of silver.
Okay.
So when you first reach that amount of wealth, right? And remember, obviously, the price of gold and silver fluctuates.
Yeah.
So per gram, whatever that price is going to be at that time, in that moment in time, that's what you've got to use, right?
Okay.
So a few years ago, it would have been closer to maybe 300 pounds, 400 pounds for silver, right? And closer to about maybe 4,000 or 5,000 pounds for gold.
Okay.
Now, generally, we will go with the silver nisab, right? In terms of what nisab you go by, just to make it very simple, if you only have gold, if a person only possesses gold, like they have gold biscuits and gold coins and gold jewelry, and that's all they possess, then you use the gold nisab.
Okay.
But for most people who have mixed assets, cash, gold, silver, other things, then you will go by the silver nisab.
Okay.
Right. So typically about 300, 400 pounds a few years ago, once you hit that threshold, you are now zakat liable.
Okay.
But when? Not on that day straight away. No. Once 1 year passes from that initial zakat date of yours, one entire year passes.
Okay.
And in the duration of that year, you have never hit zero. In the duration of that year, you've never hit zero.
Okay.
So let's make it very practical through an example, yeah? Let's say, for example, the first time you ever, remember, this is when you're an adult. So say you've just become an adult, you're 15 years old. Now, you've got some Eid money, gifts. Yeah, you hit the jackpot, mashallah, people are being very generous, and alhamdulillah, you've been able to gather £600. So now on Eid day, you've got £600.
Okay.
So now Eid day, right, which is going to be for us the 1st of Shawwal, let's say, yeah, after Ramadan. On the 1st of Shawwal, you are an adult and you have crossed the nisab amount.
Okay.
Yeah? Let's make it even more realistic. Right now, the nisab amount for gold, for silver, right, I calculated it on the 23rd of February. It was £508 and 26 pence, based on a price of 83 pence per gram of silver.
Okay.
Okay. So let's just say roughly £508. So this coming Shawwal, Eid, 1st of Shawwal, Eid day, you hit the jackpot, mashallah, everybody's being very generous and kind, and you get £600. And you are 15 years old. This is your first Ramadan where you are baligh, and you've got the nisab amount. Do you pay zakat on that day? No. You will let 1 year pass.
All right.
Or 1 year will pass.
Yeah.
After 1 year passes, in the following year, on the 1st of Shawwal, you will now check your wealth.
Okay.
Do you understand? And if you have more than the nisab amount on that day,
yeah,
at that time the nisab might be 550, it might be 570, it might be 530, whatever it is. If you have more than that, then on that day, you get your total assets, which we'll discuss, and you calculate 2.5% and you pay zakat.
Okay.
But this is only when, throughout the year, you never reached a point where your wealth went to zero. So for example, say 1st of Shawwal, you had £600.
Okay.
But then the days of Hajj came, for example, and you were in a really strong Iman spirit. And so you decided, you know what, I'm going to give all my money away to charity. And so you gave everything away, and now you're on zero. So say on the 1st of Dhul Hijjah, you gave everything away. You had nothing left.
Okay.
Now your nisab date resets because you've hit zero.
Okay.
So now the next time you cross the zakat threshold, that is now again your new nisab date.
And from that point again, it's a year.
1 year, exactly. So let's say now, let's say 1st of Muharram, the new Islamic year comes in, and your parents are feeling really generous, and they say, here you go, take £600.
Okay.
So now 1st of Muharram becomes your new zakat date. And so the following 1st of Muharram now, you will check, okay, 1 year has passed, how much money do I have?
Okay.
Right? So that is what the nisab is. It's very, very important to understand. Okay. Why? Because look, if you have the wrong nisab date, if you have the wrong zakat calculation date, all your calculations are wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, if your zakat nisab date, your zakat date is supposed to be 1st of Shawwal.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people do, you just shifted it to 1st Ramadan because you want to get more thawab.
Yeah.
Which is fine. You can pay in Ramadan, no problem. But you can't shift your calculation date.
Yeah.
Do you understand? If you just shift it to 1st of Ramadan, what's the issue? Well, now it could have been that on the 1st of Shawwal, you would have had, I don't know, £1,000. Yeah. But on 1st of Ramadan, you only had £700. For example, you only had £700.
Yeah.
So now you're going to pay zakat on that £700. You're paying less. You're not paying your full zakat.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
So to make sure you have that right date is very important. Now, a lot of people, they don't even know their zakat dates.
Yeah.
Most people don't even know.
That's right.
So we actually are responsible to find out what is my zakat date. And if that means going back and checking your old bank statements, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
Right? So especially for youngsters, like recently I helped my younger brother and sister with that, where I said, okay, show me your bank statements. Let's go back. We went back a few years and we found the first time they got some money into their account. And obviously keeping in mind if you have any cash lying around here or there, things like that. And so we add it all up, cash in your account, cash lying around somewhere, if you have gold, jewelry, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you figure out, okay, the first time I hit the threshold was X day. And then you write it in your notes. So on my phone, for example, on my notes, I have my date.
Okay.
And it's very important. You can't go with the Gregorian date. You have to go with the Hijri date.
All right.
Because remember, if you go with the Gregorian date, every year that corresponds to a different Hijri date.
Totally, yeah.
The zakat is due every lunar year.
Yeah.
So 1st of Shawwal this year, now next year 1st of Shawwal.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the same Gregorian date.
No.
That's going to be a 10-day different Gregorian date.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Wow.
So these are small things which a lot of people don't know, and they make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so they're calculating their zakat all wrong. And so it's like, imagine your tax date is due,
Yeah.
and you're due £1,000, and you're paying 900.
Yeah.
You're going to get caught. Okay, where's that extra £100? You owe this, right? We owe that money to the poor.
Yeah.
Allah has told us. So we have to make sure we take it seriously and we give the right amount.
Sure.
So returning back to this, if you're a youngster, you can do this, especially where you look back, okay, when was likely I got a first amount of money, maybe 300, 400 pounds, decent sum of money.
Yeah.
Maybe my first part-time job.
Yeah.
Maybe when I finished my hifz and my parents gave me a large gift.
Yeah.
Whatever, these kind of things happen, right?
Yeah.
Go back to that date. And then since then, see, okay, anywhere in between, did I hit zero? Probably not, most likely, right?
Yeah.
It's rare that we hit zero,
Yeah.
right? So then if you haven't, that is your zakat date. Now every year, so now check, okay, let's say your zakat date was, I don't know, the 1st of January. 1st of January 2023 was your first zakat date. Now go online and find what is the corresponding Hijri date to 1st of January.
Yeah.
You got to find that. And now that is your zakat date. So keep that on your phone.
Okay.
That is my zakat date. And every year on that day, as long as I didn't hit zero in between, I have to check what amount of wealth do I have on that date each year, and then pay my 2.5% on that.
So, put it this way: if we think of it like, for many adult families, many adult males and females that are currently here. If I say, I take myself as an example. I immigrated from a different country.
Uh-huh.
Okay. And then obviously started here and started my life here. I started working and obviously, started having my own savings and things like that. However, even when you are back in our country where we were born in,
Yep.
even there you would work.
Yes.
Okay. So obviously you had hit your nisab date a lot earlier.
That's
in my
right.
case, very many years ago.
That's right, yeah.
Now, if you can't know that exact date because
Yes.
it is so long ago, the question is, let's say, with that in mind, with the massive question mark in mind, there is the option of when someone gives sadaqah, for instance. Okay, when somebody gives sadaqah, they give sadaqah out of their heart.
Yeah.
But if you know in your mind that, well, actually, I'm not sure about my nisab date. However, I know that every year by this date I pay X amount over all of my savings. However, because I'm unsure of my nisab date, I rather make a decent extra amount in form of zakat, in the hope that is overlapping
Yep.
the nisab date.
Yeah. Of course. So I'm very glad you asked this question. It's a very good question, actually. So what I would say firstly is that for a lot of, I obviously talked about youngsters because for youngsters it is a bit easier.
Yeah.
But as we grow older, and the zakat date the first time was 15 years ago, and you're thinking, well, what was that date?
Yeah.
And most people don't do this calculation, right? Most
Yeah.
people don't know it. So then what do the ulama say? The ulama say a second option is you just estimate. You can estimate that, okay, roughly the first time I got my job was, let's say, September of 2020. All right, what date does that correspond to? And that's my zakat date.
Okay.
And then if it's not too many years, you can backtrack and check, okay, what zakat have I been paying?
Yeah.
Does it match up? If there's, and then you just kind of cover it up.
Okay.
If, however, you're not sure at all, because now you're in a state where you really don't know, you can just choose a zakat date.
Okay.
You just choose a zakat date and say, okay, I'm going to go with first Ramadan, for example,
Yeah.
or first Safar, or whatever date you want to go with, and just stick with that. And now every year that becomes your zakat date.
Okay.
Okay. Now, having said that, your question was that if a person has done this in the past, where now they're not sure what their zakat date was, and they've chosen a date now.
Yeah.
If they've chosen a random date, okay, as most people do, first Ramadan, that's my date, and I'm going to give zakat on that date.
Yeah.
Fine, you've done that now, no problem. But you're worried that, that means I've got a concern that I may not have been paying the right zakat amount all this time.
Yeah.
Well, the best thing, like you said, obviously always try to give a bit more zakat, right? Because just like with every other action, fard action, when there are deficiencies, then we should try to make it up. So if you give a bit more zakat, there's no harm in that.
Okay.
But secondly, we have to have hope in Allah that inshallah this will be covered through the other nafil actions we do. So just like with fard salah, we know that when a person prays their fard salah,
Yeah.
on the day of judgment, what will happen is that any deficiencies that are within our fard salah will be plugged by our sunnah salah.
Okay.
And any deficiencies that are in our sunnah salah will be plugged by our nafil salah.
Okay.
So likewise with zakat, inshallah, any deficiencies that are in our zakat, in our fard zakat, inshallah, will be plugged by our nafil sadaqah.
Wow.
So it's always healthy to give a bit more zakat anyway, right? But I wouldn't say that, okay, now just stop giving sadaqah and just make everything zakat. No,
Yeah.
you've done what the ulama have said, which is choose a date now that you don't know and go with that. So inshallah, that's your date, that's the amount due to you. Don't stress about it too much.
Okay.
Right? Because Allah doesn't burden us more than we can bear.
Yeah.
Right? And that's how our deen is. It's a very beautiful deen.
Yeah.
It's practical. But at the same time, when you give that sadaqah, have that intention that inshallah this will plug in any deficiency in my zakat as well.
My dear listeners, alhamdulillah, you listen to Imam Muaaz, a very, very interesting topic, and you've all heard the relevance and the importance of making your nafil salahs, your sunnah salahs, the importance of it, and how they come to our rescue on the day of Qiyamah. But zakat obviously is an obligation and a fard act to which we all have to abide by. If you have any questions, please do call. You can call us live on 01582 481 822. Or if you have a question is burning, you really want to ask, but you want to call in, you can text it on 0777 948 1822. This is the Ask Imam show. So Imam Muaaz, shukran for that. What types of wealth is zakat due on then?
Good. So once we've understood that zakat is a duty that we have, 2.5%, we have to figure out what types of wealth, right? And now a lot of people typically, they know that, okay, zakat is due on cash, right? So that could be hard cash,
Yeah.
or that could be cash in the bank. People hide cash under their beds and all these weird places,
Yeah.
right? You forget about that sometimes. Oh, I've got this much in the bank, that's how much I need to pay on. No. What about the cash you've got in your wallet? The currencies you've got. You've been traveling Algeria and Albania and wherever else, and you've got
That's
all these
true.
random currencies.
Yeah,
That's wealth.
that's money. That's true.
That zakat is due on that.
Yeah.
Every penny you've got to pay. It's a haqq of the poor.
Yeah.
So cash, whether it be in hand, in the bank, any other currency, or money which is owed to you as well. And we're going to discuss this in a bit more detail.
Okay.
But money which is owed to you as a loan or investment, even this as well, you will have to pay zakat on.
Okay.
So that's one category. The second category is gold and silver. Whatever form of gold and silver you have, right? Whether they be, you have a gold bullion, you have gold coins, you have gold bricks, whatever you have.
Yeah.
Gold jewelry, gold bracelets, gold bangles, gold rings, all of this. Gold jewelry included, because the other madhabs don't say gold jewelry.
Okay.
But we say the Hanafi madhab that gold jewelry, silver jewelry as well,
Yeah.
you have to pay zakat on.
Okay.
So all types of gold and silver. Now in this there is a bit of detail, and I'll just provide that inshallah, which is as follows. That when you have any item which is 50% or more of gold,
Okay.
and this especially applies to jewelry, right? So you might have 12 carat jewelry, 18 carat jewelry, 24 carat jewelry. 12 carat is 50% gold, 18 carat 75% gold, 24 carat 100% gold, right? So in all of these amounts, you've got to calculate the value of that item and pay zakat on that full amount.
Okay.
Not just the 50%, not just the 75%. Why? Because now that it's the majority of the item, it's as if the whole item is gold, the whole item is silver.
Okay.
Yeah. But when you have an item that is less than 50%, so typically 9 carat gold. So when you have jewelry that is 9 carat gold, you don't need to pay zakat on the full bracelet or full bangle or whatever it is,
Okay.
or full ring. You can pay zakat on the proportionate amount.
Okay.
So let's say you have a 9 carat ring and it's worth £1,000, let's say, right? Now 9 carat is 37.5% gold. That's what it means. So from that £1,000, you only pay zakat on 375 pounds of it.
Okay.
So you pay 2.5% on that 375.
Okay.
Why? Because it's less than 50%. So therefore, it's not due on the full amount. And the reason you will pay on 9 carat is because the ulama, they say that 9 carat, when it comes to gold and jewelry, the gold can be extracted. So it's like it has its own independent existence.
Okay.
Anything less than that wouldn't. So anything less than 9 carat, you don't have to pay on.
Okay.
But 9 carat, you have to pay, but you calculate proportionally, and 12 carat and above, you pay on the full amount, the full
Okay.
value of that bracelet or of that gold jewelry. Yeah.
So it is very important for you to know, first of all, the amount of assets that you have, whether
Yes.
they are zakat applicable.
Yes.
At the same time, obviously, we are going to be discussing this in a bit more detail. But also, if it is gold, then you need to be very careful and know the gold value on the day that you are doing your calculations should be.
On the
It should
day
be an old one.
exactly, meaning
Yeah.
on the day you're paying your zakat, meaning the zakat nisab date for you,
Okay.
because that's when your zakat is due. So
Okay.
on that day, you've got to figure it out.
Muaaz, thank you so much. We'll be going for a short break. My listeners, do stay tuned in. Inshallah, we'll be back with Ask Imam show, and we will be on the topic of zakat. We'll continue with the discussions on the topic of zakat. If you have any questions, please continue to get them in.
Coming up next, the children's time.
This is Inspire FM.
Inspire FM.